I had no idea how important communication was until I had my first relationship. I strongly believe that communication plays a very big part in any and most relationships. And I say that even though I have little to no real experience in the real world as far as how relationships work, I still feel like I know enough that communication does play a pretty huge role in a relationship. Now, for the example of this entire video, because I just got into the understanding of how the LGBTQ plus community works, so I'm not going to apply to the majority here. I'm just going to apply to what I knew prior to all this. So, bear with me. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I just want to tell the story. Going based off a straight relationship, I'm pretty sure it's far more complex than that, but just for the example of this, we're going to go for a straight relationship. Communication, I believe, plays a big role in family relationship, friend relationship, and relationship. I don't have a great example for all three, but I do have a great example for one, and a semi-decent example for another. First great example of how communication plays a big role and why communication is so important to me is family. That's pretty much where it starts. While times have definitely changed since then, it's the only example I have, and it might paint a pretty nasty picture of what my mom is or used to be, but I'm using this because it played a fat part in my life growing up. My mom sucked at communication. She's working on it now, which is a godsend. It usually played a part in I waited till you found out there was a problem, or I told you to do this even though I didn't. Two glorious examples of how communication became a pain in the neck was one, we lived in this house that had a back door to the backyard. We had 4 people in the house. My brother, my mother, I, and a roommate. Roommate was kind of there, but not necessarily. He found himself running around the house doing all kinds of stuff with no real explanation. And he had a shed in the back full of useless stuff. It's kind of common to expect that he'd be somewhere doing something. We don't know if he was the cause of the door, but that's a guess, I suppose. This door was unlocked. I don't know how the door got unlocked because I didn't unlock it. But the door was unlocked. And it wasn't in the middle of the night. It wasn't while everybody was out of the house. It's just unlocked. And everybody was there. It was probably in the middle of the day. While everybody's running around and doing stuff. Well, the door was, unlocked. And I went back there, I guess, to get something from the shed or to tell the dude something. I don't remember. The door was unlocked. I used the door. My brother took out the trash. Walked in and out, left the door unlocked. Why? Why did everybody leave the door unlocked? Well, nobody knows. Everybody just assumes whoever unlocked the door was busy doing something. And they're running in and out of the house and had no point in locking the door if they're doing something. We don't know who, we didn't ask. I don't know if the door would have been locked later that night. I'm sure somebody would have. I wouldn't have broke my neck to go check. My mother eventually notices the door is unlocked. And I guess it had been for a couple hours now. I think nighttime might have rolled around. And she's like, who left the door unlocked? And we're like, I don't know. Well, I left the door unlocked to see how long it would take for anyone to lock it. Nobody had any plans to step back outside. Nobody had any plans to go to that door for any reason. Nobody would have noticed the door being unlocked because it's kind of out of the way. So I'm not sure what she expected was going to happen. That we'd be consciously sitting worriedly aware that the door was unlocked. But given I did not know who was going in and out the door, I just assumed they'd be doing so. Now, I can see her intentions to be worried about the door being unlocked. Understandable. But the intent to wait around for the off chance that somebody might notice my mom thinking about the door, a bit ridiculous. Second situation happens. This is not in the same house. The hallway one belonged to my brother and I. I don't remember what was going on in my head or what the heck I was doing, but I guess I had the tendency to either forget to flush the toilet or take the trash out. I'm assuming it was the toilet. Me being human at all and magically forgetting to do simple tasks such as flushing. Go out of the house to go do something. I receive a text from my brother saying, "Hey, just letting you know, you keep forgetting to flush the toilet." I'm like, "Oh, my bad. I don't know why I keep forgetting." And then he also adds, I told mom, or said something to mom, and she was like, you could just like, I don't know, leave trash on her bed so she can get the hint or something. And my brother was like, or we could just, simply tell her she is an adult and can understand, basic words as to don't forget to flush the toilet, to which, that never came a problem because as a human being who can communicate using words, I figured out the issue and resolved it. Now, of course, all this behavior sounds toxic, and I'm not saying it isn't, but it's no longer an issue, so I'm not going to address it. But yes, communication was a problem. With countless situations of, I was waiting around till this happened, or I did this to give you the idea that you should be doing this, and it's just, why? When not only did the invention of words and communication exist, but I'm not incapable of understanding the human language. Now, I don't have any examples as far as friends go, but I do want to add that as far as I have had in minor instances in which communication was not fully clear. And usually it's somebody telling me a problem that they're dealing with and me misreading what it is they're saying, or them doing something or having me do something and I accidentally did it wrong, and they're like, "Oh no, this is what I meant." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Of course, stuff could have easily went south, and I'm honestly surprised half of it hasn't. But because everybody was in the right state of mind, they're like, "Oh no, this is what I meant," and didn't jump to conclusions based off the incorrect information, which is great. So that much is nice. So if anyone says anything, it's good to ask questions. I don't have any real examples, so I can't really give any. Same for the relationship with Chad. I can't think of any situations in which communication. I mean, I guess I can think of one, but it's like so minor. I think it was like what time to do something. I straight up can't remember what the exact situation was, but he tends to be sarcastic sometimes, and so I took his sarcasm as a joke when this time he was actually genuine about the time. I told him what time to do something, and he was like, "Oh, okay. Ironically, you wanted 2 hours later or something." And sure enough, the time that came around that I needed him to do something, he wasn't ready. And I was like, "No, I actually meant for genuinely to do this right here, right then." It's like, "Oh, I thought you meant that." It's like, "No, I thought you were joking," but nothing too serious. But this is pretty much when I met Chad, is when I realized how important communication was. Because prior to that, I felt like that I was going a little bit over the top as far as how important communication was to me. Because I never really had to use communication to its fullest. I just said whatever was on my mind, because about beating around the bush with a problem that needed to be resolved solved absolutely nothing. That was until I met him. Now, I know little about how relationships, like love relationships, work. So that's why I said in the very beginning I'll be using a straight relationship, because I don't have much experience as far as other relationships go. But based off him, if anyone knows what the red pill means, you will have an idea of how Chad thinks. But if you do not, be sure to look it up. It's too much of a broad spectrum to go across to explain it in a way that one would understand. But he is a red pillar, so he strongly believes in the rights of a male partner in a relationship with a female partner. So, he has this, I guess, I don't want to say a list, but like this setup of how a woman should behave in a relationship. And for the most part, I can get behind it. There's a lot of it that's a bit of a stretch and a bit ridiculous to sit there and nitpick over. But for the most part, I can definitely relate. And shockingly enough, communication is pretty much on top. Why it's so difficult for most women to understand is beyond me. Now, I'm not saying women are known with expressing communication, but they do tend to. And I'm saying that because a lot of media, no matter where I go, expresses that women tend to do this. Heck, it's even gone across people I've known in real life, be it family members, friends, co-workers. They all tend to do the same thing where they're like, why don't the men read the signs? Like, what do you mean read the signs? Why we're not wild animals to have to sit there and do some kind of strange dance to come across what you have in mind. We don't growl and hiss to insinuate that there's a problem. We are evolved beings that can use words to express what it is we're going through. If a man farts and you don't want them to fart, tell them to stop. If they moved a piece of furniture because they think it's okay, tell them to stop. If they leave the seat up, tell them to stop. I don't know why they have to sit there and play these weird mind games like, oh, my man is doing this, I'm gonna see how long it takes for him to stop, or I keep getting him signals that it's irritating me, or that I want this, or that I smell like that, or something. And then eventually they get mad and say, you know what, I'm gonna dump his butt because he's not reading the signs. And I'm like, why? Why is that a problem? Why is this a common issue? And that's what I've learned while being with Chad, that this is something he had to endure multiple times. And he's like glad that it's just easy for me to be like, oh yeah, definitely, or no, do this, or I would recommend this instead. And he would be worried that something would be wrong because I was like giving off some kind of body language, or I would say something that would insinuate something that most women would usually hint towards by just saying those words. I'm like, no, if there's something wrong, I will tell you there's something wrong. I'm not gonna sit there and play these weird mind games. I don't like that crap. I had to grow up with that stuff all the time. Why would I sit there and put you through it? How is that gonna help me any? Was me giving you these weird codes? Why would I sit there and have you decipher, give you a list of what emotions mean what? It just seems like it's putting everybody in a weird bind. In return, he would do pretty much the same to me. He would just tell me what's up. In fact, both of us can agree, since we've broken up, that we don't really have a real reason to break up. We pretty much were pretty compatible together. We didn't really have a real fallout or an argument or a disagreement. We have a couple disagreements. Who doesn't? I remember getting a little bit heated, but usually it's not something that he did. It's just my dumb self with my stupid anger issues getting the better of me. But we had like one little tissy and that was it. Outside of that, we never really had a real problem. And that's pretty much where I've grown to really accept the fact that communication plays a big role, and something that I'm currently worried about when it comes to finding a new relationship. I'm worried that I'll have to run into somebody who likes to play Morse code when it comes to communicating that there's something wrong. I can't imagine that everybody plays this role, especially since I am more open to try other things as far as relationships go, and assuming that they would want to be told that there's something wrong as well. Now, there are signs as far as people go, tales that they're not good one for communication, and I'm just going to tell it to the straight that I'm just not interested. But I should feel safe to say that everybody wants communication in their relationship one way or another. I can't imagine somebody would be okay with playing these weird mind games just to try to condition their significant other, their family member, their friends into doing stuff. And if anybody has to deal with that stuff, it's probably a good red flag to sit there and break connections. I could be stretching it a little bit by saying communication is a good way to break things off, but it just sounds like a very, 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 very stressful situation to sit there and have to walk around on eggshells because the wrong thing could be taken the wrong way. All because somebody just can't accept that words exist. We're humans. Let's start talking like one. Hey everyone, this is Leanne. Thank you guys for getting this far into the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you guys would enjoy this previous video, my first relationship, where I explain how it felt like having my very first relationship and how I felt even more when I broke it off. If that was pique your interest, be sure to like and subscribe because there's plenty of more videos where that came from. Thank you guys for watching and see you guys next time.